How's it going, fanboys and fangirls? Today I will be talking about the biggest Conor McGregor clones, starting with the person who I think is the least clone-like, Paddy Pimblett. So a lot of people, lately especially, have been throwing out the label Conor McGregor clone. They've been comparing a lot of fighters to him, and I think Paddy Pimblett is the least like him in most ways. I think as time's gone on, that label has slowly slipped from him. In fighting style, he's a heavily ground-based guy when it comes to his finishes, at least. And his striking style's kind of like him. He stands up really straight, I guess, kind of stiff looking, but Conor's more flowy than that. But yeah, I don't think Paddy's really done a lot to maintain that label that he had when he first came into the UFC alongside Garry. And yeah, his fighting style doesn't reflect it. He talks a big game like Conor, but he's fat. Conor never got fat. He was like the opposite. He was anorexic. And Paddy overall is slightly more timid, I guess. I don't know. I just don't think he really talks the same as him. He has a lot of unique phrases and stuff that doesn't really get him compared to Conor as much as other people. And overall, I don't think he's anywhere near the top. So moving on, I would like to say the next most Conor-like, or least Conor-like, would be Ilia Topuria. I don't think this guy is very Conor McGregor-like, and people like to compare him to him because he has a chest tattoo and has repeated a few lines at press conferences. We are nothing like Conor McGregor. We are levels above this guy. This guy is nothing. Conor wishes he was us. We knocked out the two greatest featherweight fighters of all time outside of Jose Aldo. The John Jones got Stipe, so we're getting Jose next. Trust. We're going to make an example of him as well. So yeah, Ilia, outside of repeating a few lines, really isn't anything like Conor. He doesn't fight like him. I guess later in his career, Conor, with the more boxing-centric style, might be more comparable to Ilia, but even then, the boxing is completely different. Way more smooth from Ilia. Conor kind of looked like his old striking self, just with more boxing stance, more boxing moveset. He wasn't kicking as much until the third Dustin fight, but we saw how that went. Dude's legs just aren't too good anymore. Calf kick in the second fight got him, and then legs snapped in the third one. But yeah, I don't think Ilia is very much like him. I think he gets a bad rap getting compared to him a lot. But hopefully neither of these last two guys I mentioned do some of the degenerate activities that Conor likes to do. I don't see it happening. But moving on, Mauricio Ruffy. Now he has a very reminiscent of Conor's striking style and his stance and the way he throws punches. I think he looks more stiff than Conor, as we saw in his last fight by him gassing out in the third round. But I guess Conor also kind of has that because he gasses a little bit, but I don't think he's nearly as stiff as a Ruffy. And yeah, I think their comparisons are all strictly down to fighting style. I don't think they are comparable on the microphone at all. I don't really listen to that much of Ruffy because I believe he only speaks Portuguese, but from translations and everything, I haven't gotten that vibe from him. He seems more like a soft-spoken, humble dude. So yeah, Ruffy, only his fighting style is really carrying him here. He could be a little bit higher, maybe between Paddy and Ilia, but yeah, I don't know. He fights a lot like Conor, very reminiscent of him in the octagon when you actually look at the striking. So yeah, we'll put him there at that spot. Moving on, we have two more people left. And I would like to give an honorable mention really quick to one Jacobus Paul. This guy isn't really McGregor-esque, but he has gotten some comparisons I've heard from time to time, but it's more of a copycat type thing. Like, people are accusing him of stealing promotional tactics and tattoos and all that. But yeah, honorable mention, I wouldn't put him on this list, but I feel like his name still belongs in the hat. The proverbial hat. Anyway, moving on to the final two people. Who's going to be number two? Ian Machado Garry. he straight up steals lines to the point where it's obvious. Sit down, you'll do nothing. You Neo Magnia child beater. That was crazy. That was the downfall of Ian Garry after that. Nobody wants to hear this dude talk. And yeah, his fighting style isn't too Conor-like. He's kind of garbage on the feet. Maybe he'll finish Shavkat this weekend and prove me wrong, but I doubt it. He's kind of carving out his own fighting style. The Irishness and just the wordplay at times makes him pretty easily comparable. You know, outside of that, the striking, a little reminiscent, but it's nothing too obvious, I would say. And yeah, another big reason I'd put him so high is just because he really embraces it a little bit. He says he'll be his own person, but he also clearly has inspiration coming from Conor. So yeah, I would put Ian Garry here. Yeah, he's just as degenerate as Conor as well, which I think goes a long way, even though it's not the same type of degeneracy. It's not the same type of I'm hyped up on caffeine right now, but degeneracy, it's not the same kind. I'm not going to try to say that word again. Moving on, the most Conor McGregor copycat UFC fighter there has been. Drum roll, please. It's a shitty drum roll. Kevin Lee. This guy, at some press conferences, if you know, you know, was straight up just trying to be Conor. It was, I guess, okay because he was trying to promote, but ooh, have your own personality, man. And yeah, I guess his fighting style or nothing was really all that comparable. It was just very obvious he was grifting off that Conor McGregor wave when it first happened, and I think above all of these guys, he's most clearly a copycat of Conor. He isn't really, I don't know, he doesn't tie his name to Conor in the same way Ian Garry does, but it's very obvious what you're doing, Kevin, or what you did. Maybe you'll get back in the UFC again, who knows, keep retiring and having comeback fights, bro. But yeah, that was my list. No shade thrown to any of these guys. They're all cool. They're their own dude. I'm just saying these are the levels of which the copycatting is justified. People call them out for it, and I gotta mention it. So yeah, that's all I gotta talk about. I'll see you, Brofist.